and you are listening to watching another edition of Blue Splits. Been 3 weeks. Sorry for the 1 week hiatus. Some stuff came up for me last week, but nonetheless, we are here with our good friend, co-owner, co-founder, Jet X Factor, one Mr. Michael Nania. What's going on?
It's good to be here. We're closing in on training camp. I mean, the off season is it's always boring, but without the Aaron Rodgers factor, I feel like that provided some level of entertainment throughout these portions of the off season, but there's like nothing going on right now. So the top 25 is going to bring some juice here, and soon we'll have, training camp reports of footwork and technique to unpack and all that. Very meaningful. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, sorry for starting 15 minutes late. I'm usually pretty bad with tech stuff, but as I showed Nania before this, I just could not get my mic to work. So I'm hoping my mic is at least decent. If it does cut and it's a little bit worse, I don't know what to do live time to get it better, but we will try to chug on through. But StreamYard is having quite a bit of issues today with picking up the mic. So nonetheless, today is one of the shows I enjoy the most of the all season, the top 25 ranking all the Jets players. You said camp starts soon. Is it the 17th or the 9th? Is it the 17th, the rookies report, and then say the 19th veterans or something like that? But what are the dates?
22nd is the full team. I'm going to check rookies. It might be the 19th. I'm going to check that now. 22nd is full team, though.
Okay, so I think it's the 19th then for rookies. So I thought it was the 17th or the 19th. But yeah, football's right upon us. Most of the reviews that I've done have dropped. I did 35 total, 19. 31. Yeah, 31 of Jets players. A little bit of a programming note. The reviews in the offseason, at least next offseason, are going to change a little bit. I put out 31 reviews this offseason. I think I'm going to cut it down just the tiniest bit. And the free portion that you guys get, the 10, 15 minutes, instead of just being like random plays, because right now it is, I just do a 2-hour review, an hour review. Nania will take a 10, 15-minute clipping of the beginning. I'm going to change it up a little bit next offseason. I'm going to make the 10 to 15 minutes kind of their own little show. I'm going to highlight, 2 or 3 strengths, 2 or 3 weaknesses, be a little bit more concise, be a little bit more direct with those reviews. So you guys kind of get a good feel of what the player is. And then in those 10 to 15 minutes. And if you want to watch the full review for the full list of strengths and weaknesses and to just, kind of delve into a deeper dive of a review, you can. But a little programming note that the shorter reviews next offseason are going to be a little bit better quality, just to be completely transparent. When you do a 2-hour one, you take clippings of it. It's not necessarily like formulated. It's not scripted, anything like that. With the newer ones, a little bit more scripted, a little bit more clean, and a little bit more digestible for people instead of just doing 2, 3, 4 random plays. It's going to be its own little 10, 15 minute review. So look out for that next offseason. They're going to completely change in terms of the shorter ones. Excited about that. But a ton have dropped anywhere from Byron Cowart to AVT now and a bunch of other things. Nani, before we get into this, is there any work you've put out recently that you want to promote quickly?
I mean, there's been a few articles I've really enjoyed. My Isaiah Davis one, I think, was, he's an underrated player. Not a lot of people are involving in projections of this offense. That was a fun one to dive into. But not for the most part, I think your reviews kind of carry the content lately. I think that's where most people should be directing their attention.
Yeah, like I said, it's going to change. I'm excited to see the results of it next off season, and then throughout the season, I'll continue to do the game reviews. We do the 3 studs, 3 duds, all of that stuff. So those reviews will be all encapsulating. But nonetheless, we'll say hi to some people again. We'll go through the top 25. I feel like my list, the talent level has dropped off from the past few years, but it's not like as bad as 2020, where like Jordan Jenkins was in probably the top 5 or top 10. So at least we have some talent that's fun to talk about, but it's definitely, I would say, dropped from at least previous years. Neil says, hi, like Joe. Hi, Michael.
10 to 15, not too different from recent years, but I did start to feel that once you get into the back half of this, that's where I could feel a little bit of a drop off. But I mean, ultimately, it didn't matter because they still won 7 games, 5 games past few years. So maybe we were overrating it on paper. Maybe it'll turn out differently this year, but at least on paper, in terms of like, proven talent that has produced or, high draft picks, things like that. Definitely a lot more projection involved with the later portion of my top 25.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm also having some camera issues now too, which is just wild. StreamYard is it's just fantastic today. But Neil says, hi, Joe. Hi, Michael. Looking forward to the show today. Starter camp is around the corner. It's been interesting to see how the top 25. This is a question off the cuff, just in terms of camp, because we're not going to be able to talk about camp before it actually starts. Probably I'll do a show next week, whether it be with Nani or if Nani can't join, I'll do it solo. But are there any like position battles off the top of your head that you're really looking forward to with camp starting? Because I know you'll talk about, and we'll talk about, the footwork, the offensive line stuff, the running back stuff is, let's be transparent, it's all kind of bullshit. But are there any specific battles you're really looking forward to this offseason?
Yeah, I think wide receiver is probably the most interesting to me. You have this mix of, high floor veterans with, not high floor, but Josh Reynolds is a high floor guy. But then you have Allen Lazard, who has shown flashes of being the dog wants to get involved in the top 25 combo. Allen Lazard has, he's shown he could be a useful player. And if he could get back to like 22, 23 Lazard, there's a place for him. But then what you saw the last 2 years was, one of the worst players in the league at wide receiver. So he has a big range of outcomes. Then you have all these young guys. You have Arian Smith coming in as a rookie. You have Gibson fighting for a spot. Corley, 3rd round pick last year. Tyler Johnson. So you have all these players from different backgrounds who, you're not expecting much from, but I guess you're hoping at least one could emerge and beat their expectations to a significant degree. So that's probably number one for me. Is that also your top competition, or what are you looking at?
Yeah, I would say I think safety is pretty interesting. Malachi Moore versus Tony Adams. I'll probably give Tony Adams the heads up right now, or the heads up in the competition. I think that's an interesting one. I think defensive tackle is another really, really interesting one.
Yeah.
And even like something that we've been talking about a little bit, at least on this stream, is the defensive defensive end behind, Will McDonald and JJ. Is Barron going to take it? Is Watts going to take it? Is McGregor going to step up? Is Michael Clemens, who his contract elevated from like high hundreds of thousands, maybe like low millions, to about $3 million, is it now? 3.5, something like that. Maybe I think it's like probably 2.5, 3. But nonetheless, his salary bumped up because of his playing time. I don't think he necessarily deserves it. So that's an interesting battle. Even running back, I think a lot of people have Allen penciled in as number 2, but like I said on Twitter, and we'll talk about a little bit in this, I think Davis in his reps showed more consistency. I think Allen maybe had some more like highlight type plays, even though a lot of them were kind of really like blocked well for him. I don't think he created a ton on his own, where I thought Davis down by down was a little bit more consistent. So I want to see that. Tight end 2, is it Beck? Is it Ruckert? Is it Stone Smart? I think that's another interesting one. So there's plenty of battles to look out for, and I'm excited to watch. And then we got about a month from the first preseason game. I think the first preseason game is like August 12th, 13th, 14th, something like that. So we're getting right back into it. Summer's going to end. I don't have to watch summer league basketball anymore. I could watch actual basketball starts, hockey starts, football starts. I get a little bit less busy, my day-to-day job. So I'm very much looking forward to the summer being over with and football starting again. I've had enough of the summer at this point. I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited. I think you've gotten roasted for this take before. I'm not sure if it was on this stream or a different stream, but I think you talked about not liking summer. Maybe it's on Twitter and people kind of hammered you, but I'm with you, dude.
I remember that now. I remember that. Yeah. I think that was on here.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge summer fan. And also although I did just move down to South Carolina last month, and I'm very close to the beach, closer than I ever have been. So now that I have consistent access to that, I just go I could go at like 6:30, 7 in the morning, like beat the crowd. It's still pretty cool. That I like when I have that advantage. But prior to having this, wasn't, my favorite. But I'm looking at it a little bit differently now. But the lack of sports beyond baseball, the heat in general, I think I prefer cold, because you could combat cold more. Like there's no limit to the amount of clothes you could put on, but with the heat, there is a legal limitation to what you could do with that,
dude. And really, I don't care if you're butt ass naked in New Jersey. If it
right, exactly
like 110,
right.
If it feels like 110 and it's muggy, I don't care if you're butt ass naked. Exactly. It's still freaking hot out. So you could always. 100% with you. You could fix the cold. The only thing that changes summer a little bit for me now is I have a kid, and it's easier to get him out of the house and do stuff in the summer. Mm. So that's the positive of summer. But like you said, the heat, the lack of sports, the traffic, especially around the Jersey Shore, is just brutal. My job is much busier with what I do. So I'm definitely looking forward to the summer ending. It's in my opinion, the worst season for me. So I know that sounds crazy, but give me fall with a kid, give me spring with a kid.
Oh yeah.
Those work too. I don't enjoy walking out and I'm immediately sweating because of how freaking hot it is here. But nonetheless, we'll say hi to some people. We'll get into the top 25. Howdy from Todd. Howdy back to you. Neil saying it's good to see us both on the live stream. Tony the GM is just naming people. Maybe this is his order. Q, Sauce, Garrett Wilson, Sherwood, ABT, McDonald, Carter, Quincy, Fashanu, Tippin, JJ.
Top 10 in order, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I think that might be pretty locked on to at least the guys I have. I think there's a one or two difference there, but Verge Tibb, what is up? Plus Hall, plus Simpson. Okay, that's for a 10 maybe. Alan Lazard has been a good soldier all offseason. Appreciate the energy. Yeah, do you think at the end of the day they end up keeping Lazard? I think at this point, right? He's on the roster. He's a good blocker. He's a veteran. They don't have a ton of leadership in that room, even though how much of a leader is Alan Lazard? I actually was a little bit transparently, or not transparent. It's nothing I have to be like, dishonest about, but I actually didn't enjoy a lot of Alan Lazard's press conferences, specifically when he was struggling. Do you remember he would be like, oh, well, it was the team and it's a team game and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, dude, you dropped 4 balls. Like how I get trying to, like, if you're a quarterback, make it all about the team and you or whatever. But like individually, I don't know, with Alan Lazard, I feel like he actually didn't take accountability for when he was bad. And it actually kind of pissed me off. But nonetheless, I do think he ends up on the roster unless maybe the Steelers flip a 6th or 7th round pick for him. But right now, gun to my head, I would say he's probably on the roster, even though I'm kind of indifferent if he is or is not.
Yeah, I think he will be, because I think at this point, for the potential value of him being a decent wide receiver 3, good blocker, probably outweighs a conditional 7th round pick that you're probably going to get for him, which likely wouldn't. You probably would get nothing. Those picks usually don't convey. So you're probably talking about trading him for nothing versus a very thin receiver depth chart. You want to get the most out of Fields, start this transitional stage the right way. I think there's potential value to be had there if he could get back to the player that he was. And, with his salary cut and this being a contract year for him, I think there's potential for that. So I do think he's going to stay, but we'll see where he lands and if any of these young players could usurp him on the depth chart.
Cut Clemens, I'm kind of with you. At this point, I'd rather take the risk on Watts and save $2 million. Nose Kills I says work busy in the summer due to people getting rowdy or some work. It's people getting rowdy, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands and more people around just because of quite literally at the start of the Jersey Shore is where I'm at. So it gets quite busy. This summer finally pushed me over.
For you, just the fact that when it's the summer, like people are outside and that creates more activity versus wintertime, people are mostly inside.
And you start seeing Pennsylvania registrations and New York registrations and Maryland registrations, and it gets so much more busy. Just there's thousands of more people, like you said, and then there's obviously people who are going to drink more. And when people drink more, they like to drive, they like to beat their wives, they like to do a lot of fun things when they're drunk. So I get a lot more busy. Lazard will outplay his contract. I hope so. We'll see. 2 seasons ago, Lazard was lame. This offseason, Lazard is a good soldier. Realistically, though, we really haven't heard much about him. But nonetheless, Jersey Shore visitors plus heat brings anger, in my opinion. Anger. Yeah, I'm with you. But okay, so let's start. I got to jump off at 12, but nonetheless, I think we'll have enough time to do the top 25. I always start from 25. I don't want to. Do you want to do the honorable mentions first, Nanya, or do you want to just start right from 25 and then hit the 5 honorable mentions after? Let's do the 5 honorable mentions after.
Yeah. Okay. You want to do it after? I was thinking maybe do it first. But
we'll do it after, because then it's a thing where, hey, whoever your 26 guy is, maybe somebody's waiting for him in the top 5 that you do right now, and then they're like, oh shit, he's on the list. So kind of a little bit of more of a cliffhanger with those guys at the end. towards the beginning of the review, I'll be or the top 25, I'll be transparent. I struggled quite a bit at the bottom here. I think the bottom 10 or so is really where I changed the most in terms of ranking these guys. So I'm gonna put you on the hot seat first, and I want you to give me your 25th guy.
Yeah, and so before we start, like, did you have a core kind of like philosophy in terms of how this works? Because for me, what I kind of went with was I'm predicting how good they will be this year, so not past accomplishments or what is expected. It's my prediction of what I think could happen. So I might be more optimistic, less than other people, relative to their position with weight to positional value. So like Thomas Hennessy isn't number one. He's not on the list, spoiler alert, but you're considering the positional value, like a little more to a quarterback, a little less to a running back and things like that.
Yeah, I would say I'm with you. I did more like going into the season and what I expected out of them this year instead of what they've done in past performance. So it's like the top 20, 25 of 2026 kind of more than like 2025. I thought about it positional importance, but really, I'll be honest, it really only kind of factored in with guys like, Beck, who's really not going to play a lot.
Right. Yeah.
But past that, it's not like, oh, well, Justin Fields is going to be more impactful to the Jets this season. So he's better than now Will McDonald, so
right.
I would say positional importance only factored in, but it's really only with like, typically for me, that's only with like fullbacks, kickers, punters, things like that. So it didn't really factor in so much for me. We have a question really quickly before we get into this. Is Nani going to restart his written analytics QB post-game analysis? It was so insightful in understanding Darnold and Wilson's game. It would be interesting to see if Fields develops any further. Any comment on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of stopped doing it for Rodgers because it felt like a big part of it was because those were young quarterbacks that we had. It was cool to track the development and see if there's any progression. With Rodgers, you kind of knew what you were getting. There wasn't that element to it. But with Fields back, I'm considering it, but it's definitely a lot of like I was doing that back when, JetX didn't really get going too much. So I had time to really hone in on one thing. It didn't have to get too much stuff out. So it's pretty time consuming. I'll see if I have time for it. But considering that we are back to a younger quarterback who we're hoping to see some development from, I will consider it. But I'm glad to hear that people still are thinking about that and remember it. So I appreciate that, Neil.
Yeah. Kay Delgado says compared to them, we kind of hit on this a little bit earlier, Delgado, but it's do you feel better or worse about the end of the list? I would say worse. I don't want to put words in both of our mouth, but we've had deeper receiver cores, we've had deeper defensive. Like you look at the defensive line of a couple of years ago, you had a bunch of great backups. You had Will McDonald as a backup, you had Huff as a backup, you had L Woods, you had a bunch of guys, you had bunch of guys, Quentin Jefferson as a backup. So yeah, I would definitely say the bottom of the list is less appealing than years past, but we kind of expected that. It's not something where I like discredit Muji because of it. I think it's a thing where they knew they're not necessarily going to go for it all this year, and they're going to be safe with their money, and they're not going to spend stupid types of money, and they're going to roll their money over into the next year. So it's not something like, oh, Muji's an idiot. It's just he's not going for it all because he understands where this roster is. So kicking it off with that 25th player, Michael, who is your 25th on this list?
Yeah, so the 25 spot for me was tough. I debated a few different players here, and this is where positional value did kind of play an effect, but I kind of overrided it and went with a player who I thought, compared to some of the honorable mentions who didn't make it, I thought this was the guy who is going to play his role the best. I'm most confident that he could do his job, and I'm going with Andrew Beck as my number 25. Maybe a little bit of a surprise, maybe a projection for a guy who isn't necessarily guaranteed a roster spot. But yeah, this is, relating to that last question, this is a part of the list where we haven't yet gotten to the proven players on this roster. So you're kind of picking between a lot of backup type players and just going with preference. Who do you really believe in the most? So I went with Andrew Beck here, and we'll get to our honorable mentions later, but I just felt better about him than some of the guys below him.
Yeah. It's I had Beck a little bit a little bit higher than you did, and I kind of like try to think at this spot. It was kind of like, okay, if these guys are starters, which one's going to be the least bad starter at their position is kind of how I try to think about it. But it was difficult. For me at 25, I had Isaiah Davis. I don't think he would be a good starting running back at this point. Maybe he could be at least solid, but it's where I had him. I don't think he would be a preferable starter, but I do think he could be like, and obviously different level players or different players in terms of, how they play exactly. But could he not replicate like a Bilal Powell if he had to start for a bad team for a year or something like that? I think he could. If not, maybe be even better at his ceiling. So I put Isaiah Davis at 25, and Beck is a little bit higher, and I did factor in positional importance for him a little bit, because we'll talk about once we get to him why I have him where he is, and he may be better than some guys on the list in terms of at their position. But nonetheless, Isaiah Davis as my 25th player. Who is your 24th? While I let my dog in the room so he stops scratching at the door.
Yeah, 24th here. This might be, I'm going to say it might be a surprise a lot at the bottom of this list, but I'm going with my first rookie here at number 24, Azareye'h Thomas. You might, I don't know if you have him on your list or not, but I don't know. Again, this is a part of the roster where like he might be, he's a rookie and he hasn't played yet, but just based on his film and talent level and production, I feel more confident in him being productive than most of their veteran players who are below him. So maybe a little bit of a projection, but I'm going with him here at number 24.
Yeah, no, I don't want to give away too much about Thomas, but I do have him on the list. I'm just not going to say exactly where, but I don't think you're. Yeah, no, well, he could be honorable mention technically, but yeah, no, like if Azareye'h Thomas had to start right now in this scheme, would he be worse than some of the other guys on the list? And I don't know. So it's kind of projection with some of these rookies and how good they would be, but. I think if you started Azareye'h Thomas this year at corner 2, I think he would. I think he would be a starting level player. Now, is he a good starter? Medium or a mid level number 2, a bad number 2? I'm not sure, but I do think he could start and not be out of place. So I have him a little bit higher because there's some people at the bottom of the list that I think are kind of worse at their positions than I would project Azareye'h Thomas to be. So. I don't think you're in the wrong with having Azareye'h Thomas here. You might even be maybe at least to my list too low. I'll give away something there. But my number 24 is. This one's a little bit projection too, based on some of the limited snaps we saw of him. But I think we're going to see more reps of him this year, even though it may be as a backup because of where he kind of fits into the defensive line. But I have Leonard Taylor at 24. Wow. Yeah, I don't know if you're higher or lower. To me, it was a little bit inconsistent with him in terms of the film. But he showed some pass rushing chops. He showed some instances of him actually stuffing the run. So I don't know what his PFF grades and all that stuff was, but overall he did pop in the run game a little bit more than I expected him to before doing his review. And after watching, I'm like, okay, some flashes in the pass game, some flashes in the run game. So I put him here as the 24th best player. Again, somebody that I don't think you want as a starter. He's definitely, I think he would be a below average to bad starter, but I think he may be able to do that. Maybe on a different team where they didn't have a 3-tech like Q, something like that. But he's my 24th. And then I'll give my 23rd because I want you to go first on every single one. My 23rd best player on the Jets roster. And this one I would say is probably going to be somebody that you maybe didn't even have on the list. But Josh Myers is my 23rd. And again, somebody who I don't think you want starting, but do I think is he a low-level starter at this point in his NFL career? And has he been? Yes, with the Packers. Obviously, we're projecting, and it's kind of hard to say like how good he's going to do on the Jets this year because you're hoping he plays 0 snaps. But I do think he's a valuable backup. He was a starter for 3 or 4 years for a reason. I think he's a pretty solid player who wouldn't be a miscast as a starter, even though while acknowledging he would be, a bad starter. But my 23rd. I'm assuming you don't have him on your list based on your reaction.
We'll see. But my 23rd is this is the first player we have that we've both mentioned so far. I have Isaiah Davis here, so 2 spots higher than you had him. I think we're in a pretty similar look at him. Like as a starter, who knows? Like too small of a sample to really project that yet. But I would like, and I talked about this in the article, I would love to see him get like 20 to 25% of the carries, a similar slice to Braylon Allen as this like dual secondary running back. Hall still your starter, then kind of have them split the secondary portion. I would like to see that because I think Davis is someone who is very good at consistently getting positive chunks. He's not going to hit home runs. Yeah. He's not going to do a lot that is like highlight reel worthy, but just good vision and gets downhill, falls forward. He's really good at that. So like getting 3, if you're giving someone a rest and you just need like, can you get 4 yards a couple times for us? I think he's very reliable at that. So I think he's a very solid RB2/RB3. So I got him in my 23rd here. Should I go to my 22?
I just want to comment on Davis really quickly. It's just, and I compare them to Jets players because they're relevant, obviously, on a Jets show. So that's why I kind of feel like, and again, different, but like with the consistency that Bilal Powell had, like just a guy who's going to come in and get you 4 or 5 yards consistently, wasn't the most explosive player. Now, obviously, Davis has a better stiff arm. He's more power than a Bilal Powell, or Bilal Powell's probably a little bit faster. But like you said, I think right now, I wouldn't even say a 3. Like I think he's a solid number 2. Like I really do. Now again, limited reps. So how does he improve? Does he, obviously there's sophomore year slumps and things like that. But I really like Davis, dude. Good, like you said, good vision, falls forward, good stiff arm. Will lower his shoulder. You know, he's not Braylon Allen, but he's still 6 foot 220. Like he's not a small running 220. Back. So. Yeah, he's actually pretty relatively thick. So I really like Davis. And again, it's a thing where right now I think that Allen maybe has a higher ceiling because of some of the physical capabilities he has in terms of the power and speed ratio. But gun to my head, you know, I don't know, 1st and 10 on an inside zone, who's going to get you more yards? To me, it's Isaiah Davis just because of the consistency. So no, I like that pick for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like on that note, quickly, like I think, you know, goal line, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, like give me Braylon Allen over anyone in this running back unit. But if I need someone who's like, you know, it's a clock chewing situation, or you just want to give a fresh player a whole drive to carry the ball a few times, I think Isaiah Davis, maybe even over Breece, might be my guy right now. Because again, like if the goal is just, can you get 4 yards on 1st and 10, another 4 yards, hopefully we convert, then can you give us another 4 yards? Just keep us ahead of the chains. I think his game is the best suit to that right now. So I think that's where his role could be in this offense. While Allen is, you know, short yardage, and he'll get opportunities like that as well. And like you said, higher ceiling, because if he can really put it together, you do have that, you know, RB1 type of ability with his speed and power. But you know, I really like what Davis showed. And it was a small sample, but he was consistent with it. It's not like he had one. Sometimes someone might have an 80-yard run. They get stuffed on every other play, and they still average 6 yards a carry because they only carried it 25 times. But with Davis, his longest run was only 20 yards. He was very consistent with those 30 carries. He got at least 4 yards on 60% of those, which is pretty absurd. So that's something that I think is sustainable, but we'll see. It was only 30 carries, so definitely has to sustain it. But I like him quite a bit.
Yeah. So before you get into your 22nd player, right, we do have a bonus question, which I like, from Danger Zone. Player most likely to add themselves to the top 100 for the first time this year, which I believe he's talking about like the NFL.com, like the videos that come out. Because I know there's one by like PFF and a bunch of other ones, but who would you say is the most likely to add themselves to this list this year for the first time? Because you've had Q, you've had Sauce, you've had Garrett Wilson, right?
Has Garrett Wilson been on it yet?
Has he not been on? Has he not been on it? I think he
okay. Last year he was. Yeah.
Okay.
Last 2 years,
Q, Sauce, and Garrett have been on it. So who would you say would be the most likely to join it next year?
I think Will McDonald, because with this list, I'm thinking it's more of like a notoriety flash type of thing. So like
Mm-hmm.
maybe one of the Jets offensive linemen has a more legitimate top 100 case, but in terms of making it onto this list, I think Will McDonald could get 15 sacks or something like that. And even if he's not a
Mm-hmm.
great run defender still, like that will be overlooked on this type of
Yeah.
list. So I think he has the best shot.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I was gonna say the same thing because like you could factor other guys in there. You know, AVT. How hard is it for an offensive lineman to get on that list? It seems relatively hard. You have to be very good for quite a few years. Michael Carter can maybe make it, but how often do slot corners make that list? Sherwood, but yeah, McDonald, because I think he's a guy who's going to get you 12, 13, 14 sacks this year, and sacks kind of create noise. So if I had to bet, yeah, I'm 100% with you. It's Will McDonald. But who is your 22nd best player on the Jets roster going into or in 2026? I guess we'll say.
Yeah, this was a really interesting one. My debate between this guy and another guy at this same position. I really went back and forth on it, but I had to put, going off of trajectory and age, I had to put this guy as the lower of the two players at this position. But number 22, I have Tyrod Taylor.
Okay. I have the same exact 22nd player. So
nice.
We are on there. And again, it's the thing where like, I don't think you're going to see him or hopefully not at all this year, but in terms of starters, if he had to start for you, is he a lower end starter in the league still? Yes. I think he's better than, I don't know who's the 32nd, 31st, 30th best quarterback in the league. I think Tyrod, if he actually started the entire year, would probably fall in the 25 to 28 range. And I know people are going to say injuries and you have to factor that in. I agree. But when you look at some of the injuries he's had, one, watch him with the Giants and see how quickly pressure got to him. I would say it's hard to not get injured behind that offensive line, considering the lack of weapons they had as well. And then with the Chargers, like he was supposed to start week 1, he got his lung punctured by a doctor who was injecting him with something. Like, how does that happen? So he's been a little bit, he's had a little bit of bad luck. But in terms of, I think he's a lower end starter, and that's kind of where he falls to me. So I'm 1,000% with you. Tyrod Taylor is my 22nd as well. I don't think I have a Tyrod highlight. I think I deleted those by now. But nonetheless, yeah, I'm going to. Look at you putting the top 25 out there on the list.
Yeah,
I love it.
I've been updating it. Got the production value going a little bit.
Look at you. This is above my head that you're doing that. But yeah, no, I like it. Tyrod's my 22nd, and I guess it's kind of factoring like backups and all this stuff because gun to my head, Tyrod Taylor, in terms of as a starting level player, is probably better than my next guy. But my 22nd player is Josh Reynolds. That's where he's gonna fall for me. Again, I think as a number
again, 21st, Josh Reynolds.
Wow. Yeah. So to me, it's a thing where like I think he's probably a worse starter as a receiver too than Tyrod would be as a quarterback. But I don't necessarily know exactly how that factors in. But it felt right to put Reynolds a little bit above Tyrod. But I think overall, I think a player who's a little bit overlooked by Jets fans, and I would say that's based on his 2025 season, but. You look at him, what he did with the Lions, he was very good. In 2024, he went to the Broncos. He got shot. He was out for quite a few weeks, most of the season. Went to the Seahawks. Was it the Seahawks?
Jacksonville.
And then didn't really – Jacksonville. Went to Jacksonville. Didn't really catch on so much there. But you're talking about a guy who's bouncing from team to team, injured, got shot, a lot of adversity in his season. But a guy who I think you've been relatively outspoken about in terms of liking him more than the fan base. And I don't think either one of us think that he's a good number 2 or anything like that. I think on a good team, he's a very solid 4 to a lower end 3. But that's much better than anybody else on the roster. So I like him. I like his toughness. I like his route running. Nothing to write home about in terms of like any elite traits, but just a consistent football player who's willing and catches the football. So Josh Reynolds is my 21st as well as yours.
Yeah, he had a few years as a solid complimentary guy with the Rams. He did it in Detroit, which hopefully can translate well since he's following over Engstrand. And yeah, like you said, I think like objectively, if we're ranking all the wide receiver 2s in the league, he's probably close to the worst, if not there. Just in terms of like his capability, but I like him because he's a role player. He does what he's supposed to do. Sometimes you'll have like specialists in this type of role. You have a deep threat guy, you have a possession guy. They're great at one thing, but they're not very well rounded. I think Reynolds is a guy who you could just trust to handle what's put on his plate, whether that's his, overall. I know you have some whole questions with his blocking, but I think he's better than average. He plays with good effort and energy, which I think is the first step to that. But yeah, like in Detroit, he was in 2023, he was technically their second wide receiver, but because Gibbs and Laporta took such huge portions of those targets, he was really the fourth target overall. So the Jets might try to do something similar with Mason Taylor and Breece Hall. So it's something that could work with him as your second receiver. It's not ideal, but if you can make up for it with your tight end and running back, I think the line showed it could work. I don't know if the Jets are on the same, caliber as them with, can Mason Taylor be Laporta? Can Breece be like Gibbs? Can Engstrand replicate Ben Johnson? There's a lot of question marks, but yeah, I think he's just a solid role player who you can trust to handle whatever you put on his plate. So that's why I like him here. And as we start to get up, I think we got a couple more on my list here who I think are like, either backups or subpar starters. But beyond that, we start to get into plus starter territory. So number 20, I have Braylon Allen, only 3 spots above Isaiah Davis here. But yeah, that's where he settles in. I think he's a, low end RB1 / high RB2 right now. Excellent short yardage. Hopefully they maximize that more because he was elite. He's 11 for 12 with 1 yard to go last year, but most of that was between the 20s. They didn't really let him do it near the goal line. So hopefully they tap into that some more. And then, on top of that, I think he's more well-rounded than given credit for. He can break away if given the opportunity. Didn't have many chances to do that in the open field, but you saw against the Titans, if given some space, he could hit that second gear and take it to the house. So yeah, I got him at number 20 here.
Yeah, no, that's honestly a little bit surprising to me. Allen up above Davis, or even that much above him. But again, that's obviously everybody's opinion. It's to me, again, just Davis showed a more consistent down by down for Allen. Like you saw the power, you saw the speed, but I think a lot of stuff was like blocked up for him, and he didn't really like create a ton on his own. So I would say I'm probably a little bit lower on Allen than I guess obviously you and the fan base. I just didn't see a ton in 2024. I'm like, oh yeah, he's definitely going to be a good player. Like, yeah, you see the speed, you see the ability to put the shoulder down for a yard, which is great. But in terms of minus the short yardage stuff, I just didn't see anything. I'm like, oh, that was great vision, or that was great creativity. I actually expected him to break a little bit more tackles than he did. He went down on first contact quite a bit for a guy his size. So I just didn't see a ton where I was like, oh yeah, he's definitely going to be a good player. And specifically, you're talking about like lower end running back 1 to a really good 2. I don't think he's proven that yet. Like again, a gun in my head right now, who would I rather have as the backup for the Jets this season? I would rather have Davis. Now, again, do you want to take the risk because it's not a all-in year with Allen in the ceiling? Fine, but again, 1st and 10 right now, inside zone. Who's going to get me more yards? I'm going to take Davis. If you have 100 reps to each of them, I think he averages a higher yards per carry. But again, everybody has their roles, and if Allen's going to be the guy who gets you touchdowns and first downs on 4th and 1, and obviously the yards per carry are down, then by all means he could be ranked higher. But I just didn't see a ton in 2024. I was like, oh yeah, that was an outstanding play. But that's just me. And Delgado says the same thing. He expected Davis higher than Allen overall. For me, I'll give it away that Allen is not on my top 25 at all.
Okay.
Where Davis was my 25th player on the list. So my 20th player, which I don't think this is going to create waves or anything like that, or be that surprising. Saying give it away, but like positional importance, I guess, factors in. But Justin Fields is my 20th best player on the Jets roster. I get obviously makes the biggest impact and stuff like that, but I kind of took it like relative to their positions. Again, minus fullback, punters, kickers, but you're talking about a lower end starter at quarterback at this point in his career. Now, I guess we're kind of factoring in what he's going to be in 2026 as well. But I still think he's realistically going to be average to below average this year. It's just my expectations. Now, as a Jets fan, I want him to be top 10, and I want the Jets to extend him and have him for the next 10 years, and him kind of be a different version of what the Lions got with Jared Goff. But realistically, if I had to bet my house on it, I'm not, just based on what I've seen throughout his career. So I think he's a lower end starter, and that's where he falls for me in my 20th spot. Now moving past him, I'll go to my 19th, because you just did your 20th.
Mm-hmm.
My 19th, and this is a guy who I would venture to guess he's probably not even on your list. I'm giving some credit to the fact that I don't think the Jets staff, well, I'm not going to say the Jets staff in the past was bad at developing guys, because they actually were pretty solid. But with Aaron Glenn coming in and a focus on the secondary, Tony Adams is my 19th. And this is a little bit projection in terms of the new coaching staff coming in and getting him to be a better tackler. But you're talking about a guy who has versatility to play high, play low, physical, at least somewhat physical in the box, of the biggest guy in the world. But he's a safety. You could really has good versatility. You could play, slot reps on slot receivers, which I don't think anybody else in the secondary offers, at least in terms of the safeties. You don't want Andre Cisco one-on-one with a receiver. You do not want Malachi Moore because of the lack of speed and acceleration on a slot receiver. So I still think Adams offers that versatility where he will be the starter. And me personally, again, maybe it's a little bit projection of what I've seen in the past of Tony Adams and what I watched of him coming out of Illinois. But I think this staff will help him out, and I think he can actually become, again, I don't think we're talking about plus starters here or even average starters, but I do think he could be at least capable, below average starter for the Jets. So Tony Adams at my 19.
Okay. Well, 19 for me. We're very close on this one. I got Justin Fields here, one spot higher than you do. Pretty similar. Yeah. I mean, this is a starting quarterback, probably top 25, top 20 quarterback in the league. So that in itself is enough to be higher than much of this roster, where you have backup caliber players at a lot of positions. But it's hard to put him much higher than this, even though he's the starting quarterback, because everyone else I have higher, I think, is better at their respective positions than he is, if not significantly so. I was kind of torn to put Tyrod above him. I did want to see them compete. Like, we're resigned to the fact now that they've decided on Fields, but initially when this idea came up, I was all aboard to let these guys compete, because I think Tyrod might be a better option to win games unless Fields proves it. But I kind of went with the projection aspect. Tyrod is getting older, and he's played well, but he's also mainly played in garbage time for the Jets. Great, short stretch of games with the Giants. Not great, but relative to this conversation. With Fields, they're building the offense around him. I think it could allow him to be a little more effective than he has been. So it was kind of tough for me to decide between them. I do think there's a chance Tyrod ends up being a better option to win games. Maybe Fields gets benched. Tyrod is a good run. It could happen. But I'm going to go with Fields because of the upside, a few spots higher. So I got him at my number 19 spot here.
Yeah, and with Fields, how high do you think he could end up climbing? Now, obviously, based on his athleticism and arm strength and stuff, like realistically, he could be a top 10 player, I guess, technically. But realistic, what's your realistic rise for Justin Fields? Like, everything works out this season, and he performs well. Do you think he could take quite the leap in your rankings for next year?
In terms of on the Jets roster or among quarterbacks?
Yeah.
Like, could he be a top
10
I
guess kind of both.
Yeah. I mean, I think keeping it realistic, you have to realize that some of the limitations in his game, they can be, curbed, they can be muted, but he's played 4 years in the NFL, and we've seen a lot of the same things through 4 years. So that's just something that's part of his game. And, like we've seen with the Sam Darnold, with the Baker Mayfield, I think or Geno Smith, I think more so Sam and Geno compared to Baker. I think Baker's pretty good at this point, but you land in the right situation. I think you find the right system, the right supporting cast. they could find ways to hide some of those weaknesses, and you have good production, you win more games, and you look like a better quarterback. But those weaknesses are still there, and they'll show up at certain moments, and they'll limit your ceiling. And that's why you look at,
Mhm.
and we'll see what Darnold does if he can sustain that. But that's why you look at those guys, they're like average plus average starting
Yeah.
quarterbacks. I think that's what you're realistically looking at for Fields. Can the
Yeah.
Jets be the place where they build the right system and have the right environment to where his processing, his ability to get to read some of the reckless decisions, like those are quieted enough to where his strengths can shine, and he's an
Mhm.
efficient player. They win some games. But ultimately, I think those things are always still going to be there. And that's going to hold him back from being as good as the similarly talented guys like a Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, similar physical
Yeah.
tools, but those guys just have it between the ears. And maybe they didn't initially. It took them some time to develop it. But by year 2, year 3, you could see that Lamar, Josh Allen, like they could play quarterback on top of the physical stuff. Justin Fields has had 4 years at this point. We haven't really seen that. So I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility for him to be average, above average
Mhm.
quarterback if he could find the right system, but it's just unlikely that he gets higher than that to me. So yeah, I think he could be a
Yeah.
top 10. If you're an above average quarterback, starting quarterback, I think that should make you a top 10 player on your team. So he could be there next year,
Yeah.
especially if we already have him at 19th here. So I could see it, but that would be my realistic hope, is to be like an above average type of starter.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I think he like on this list next year, could he be the 14th, 13th, 12th best player? Somewhere right on like average level starter. I think he could. Do I think he could be like almost what Tyrod was with the Bills for a few years, or what Tannehill was with the
Yeah.
Titans, or I think that's kind of where he falls. Do I ever think he's on like sniffing the top 10? Probably not. But if they can get the 15th, 16th, 17th best starter, I don't even know. Like, would you sign up for that, or is that like quarterback purgatory? Like that's kind of the problem. So wait. So let me follow up then, because that's a hard question to answer, right? So you're the Jets. He plays like however you quantify it, the 16th best quarterback in the league next year. He wants a raise. The Jets finish with 7 wins, which is kind of, you're in the purgatory of everything. You're not good enough to make the playoffs right now. You aren't bad enough to get a high pick. So if he's the 16th best quarterback in the league this year, what do you do in 2026? Do you trade up to get a quarterback, and then you make Justin Fields prove it for another year, make that guy trade bait the next year? Like, what do you do? Because you either want it to really, really, really work or fail. Like, you don't want to be in the middle, because it kind of what makes this question tough.
Right. Yeah. And I think, from my perspective, it's like when the Giants had their Daniel Jones situation a few years ago. It should be pretty obvious to you, just like, okay, enjoy the season that you had, but this is still not the guy. Just
Yeah.
let that go. But teams struggle with that because it's so hard to find a competent quarterback that you can win games with. In the Jets, especially, even though this regime hasn't been part of all the years of that, but it's so difficult
Mm-hmm.
that they'll find a guy who's good enough and they just can't let him go, because it's such a risk for you in terms of your own job security to be like, okay, we have something that works. Let's risk going all the way back to the bottom just so we could potentially get better. It's hard to do that. So I do fear that, you could see an outcome like that where Justin Fields is like good enough, but like you said, clearly not, to that level yet, but the Jets buy into it. That's probably their worst case scenario for the long haul. That's why you almost want to see, just like you said, like either fail or be a
Mm-hmm.
smash hit. But I would think with the structure of this deal, hopefully if he has that type of season, like give it one more year, hopefully draft someone high, whether it's first or second round, to complement with that and hedge your bets a little bit. But the last thing you want is to buy into that. So I would hope that even after these 2 years, say he has 2 solid, average, maybe a little below type years, even above, like you have to understand that teams that win Super Bowls have to be capable of getting top end quarterback play. So I would hope that this regime is smart enough to not commit to average for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see, because a lot of teams fall for that.
Yeah, no, like even if he performs well, I think the Jets should consider drafting a quarterback, trading up, draft a quarterback, and again, either Justin Fields succeeds in year 2 and that guy is trade bait, down the road, or it's a thing where Justin Fields struggles the second year, and they don't they don't move forward with him and they move on with the rookie. It's just I don't really see many situations where the Jets don't grab a quarterback of some sort next year because Tyrod's going to be gone. Do I think Justin Fields is going to perform like a top 10 guy? We're okay. You don't have to worry about anything. I don't think so. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with him. But I'm hoping he's better than 20th next year. I'm hoping he's one. Realistically, like that would be excellent. But who do you have for your 18th guy?
Yeah, this is where we get into a little kind of debate between a few different DBs here. I shuffled them around a lot, but 18th here, I'm thinking he's going to be on your list, but I know you're not. I would say you're pretty low on this guy compared to public opinion and expectations. So maybe he's a shocking exclusion, but I got Andre Cisco here for number 18, one spot above. Is that who you're expecting?
Yeah, that's how I was expecting.
Okay. Yeah, I got Cisco here at 18. I mean, a lot of holes in his game, like you said, the tackling, the angles, which you don't love at free safety, but he was a starter for 3 years in Jacksonville. He got a salary that indicates teams view him as an average plus starter. He's a good ball hawk. He has a really good reel of interceptions. That's the thing. Like, you could talk about a player's interception totals, but I like to see when they actually create them, because an interception could just bounce into your hands, but he has a really good reel of interceptions. So I think he's a legitimate ball hawk, good playmaker who should help the Jets get their turnovers back up, but definitely a volatile kind of player. So I got him at 18 here.
Yeah, like I like the size, I like the range, I like the hitting power he has. Again, for the size, he moves well. He's capable in the box. It's just for me, the biggest issue was just the tackling, the run game diagnosis sometimes, and the angles were just brutal. You see a guy like Jordan Whitehead, and they miss tackles for maybe different reasons, but they both miss just as many tackles. So the tackling was brutal, so it really dropped him, or my opinion of him. I was surprised he got as much as he did after watching. I'd expect maybe a few less $1 million a year, but again, maybe like you did and maybe like I did as well with Cisco potentially coming up, giving some credit to the coaching staff and hoping that they can develop him like they developed, Kirby Josephs and some dudes with the Saints as well, Gardner Johnson, I believe, as well, and some other dudes. So very, very volatile right now, but I do think he'll improve. But my 18th player, and again, this is factoring in positional importance because there's some guys above him that I may think he's better at his position, but nonetheless, I have Andrew Beck here. Wow. I would say again, he could be even better than some guys above him, but I did factor in the positional importance. But I think if you play him at fullback, I think he's a plus starter at fullback. I think if you play him at tight end too, he's at least decent there. So I think for what he is, he's a decent level starter, whether that be fullback, tight end too. Whereas the guys below him, Tony Adams, Fields, all that stuff, I think are below average starters. But I don't think there's a world you could tell me where, okay, if he played, starting fullback reps, is he a below average fullback or even an average one? No, I think he's a plus fullback, but I did factor in the positional importance here. So he is my 18th best player.
Yeah, I hope he makes the team and lives up to the hype that we're both putting on him. And it's hard not to see him making it because it's all there on the tape. You can see it. It should be a player who makes this team and plays an important role for them. But he only signed for almost the minimum, $167K guaranteed. So he does have to go out there and earn it. They're clearly not too high on him, but it's an odd disconnect between what we're seeing on the film versus how he's being valued by the league.
Yeah, and there could be a drop off, right? Like we never know. Again, I'll always point to the Tyron Smith thing because his film was great with the Cowboys the year before he came here, and he just was awful with the Jets. So is it that? Is it something where, okay, maybe in meeting rooms and stuff like that, he's not able to pick up a lot of an offense, so maybe he struggles mentally, and that's why he bounced around a little bit? I don't know, but all I can tell you is when I watched him, I was impressed. And I think he's an above average fullback with some tight end versatility because of the routes he ran, some of the catches he made were very impressive. So yeah, he's my 18th best. And then the next guy on my roster, I don't know if you commented on your 18th guy. If not, it's okay. Just fill in after. But my 17th guy is a guy you had a little bit lower. And this, again, is just projection and how they would do. But Azareye'h Thomas is my 17th best player.
That's very fair.
I think in a world where 40 times didn't exist, even though they shouldn't factor in as much as they do, I think he's a high second round pick, late first round pick. I really do think he's that talented when I watched him. So I think it's an absolute steal. The Jets got him in the third round, but I think if you started him right now, I think he would be a lower end cornerback too. I think he would be capable. Again, I don't think he'd be great, but I don't think you'd watch him like, oh my God, this guy can't start. You have to replace him next year. It's like, no, like, okay, at least okay as a corner too. So he is my 17th best player.
Yeah, for me. And yeah, I think I tried to hedge it a little bit, like, rookie versus veteran players. But, if we're going predictive, which I tried to do, then I think you could definitely see that type of outcome for him. Obviously, his playing time will be a big part of that as well. But yeah, for 17 here, staying with the DBs, I'm going with Brandon Stephens here. And this is maybe higher than I initially expected I would put him, but just the potential that he has, I think, and the tools, I think, is enough for me to buy into him over a lot of the players below him, because this could be a really, really good starter. Like he's close to being that. And I think your film review really shows it. And there are numbers there too. Like in terms of just being there in coverage and forcing tight window throws, he's among the best at that. He was almost identical to Sauce in terms of tight window targets last year. It's just obviously penalties, not tracking the ball, things like that after the ball is thrown. So it's a projection. He's already 27. He was with a great Ravens coaching staff and they couldn't figure it out. So it's not a guarantee. And I think there's a low floor, but the ceiling it's definitely appealing. So I see what they were going for. I still think it's a little bit of a gamble at that price for someone who, didn't produce well last year, but I do see the vision, and that's enough for me to put him here.
Yeah, I think in terms of like if he improves, he could be a guy. If I told you, hey, he's an okay number 2 starter in the league, I don't think that's crazy. I did a very long film review of him, 2 hours. Again, next year I'll be better at consolidating and giving you like a better bite-sized 10, 15-minute thing. But this comment's great from Kate Delgado. Tony Adams, Andrew Beck on top 20 is the kind of content others are too scared to give you, which is it's hilarious. I love that. But yeah, with Stephens, man, like he's a guy who the movement skills are there, the size is there, the aggression is there. He had some versatility. He had a few reps at safety the last year. He's good in press. And if you watch the full review, which really like, I don't know if there's one out of the 31 I did, I would say Stephens is a top 3 one you would want to watch, just in terms of like, I consistently hammer how he could play the ball better. And it's not just, deflect the ball. Like it's obviously that would be easy to say, but I give you like technical reasons what he's doing wrong. And for me, it's a lot of him versus vertical balls with his back to the quarterback. He just panics a little bit. And, after the receiver looks back, and when the receiver starts looking back to the ball, if you don't look back as well within the first 5 yards, keep your eyes on him, keep your eyes on his hands. And there's way too many times, the receiver's looking back for the ball 10, 15 yards down the field. And then you have Brandon Stephens who then turns around, tries to find the ball, and it's already over his head, because by the time he's looking back for 10, 15 yards, the ball already should be there or about to be there. So just play through his hands. So I give you plenty of examples in the review that if he just changes how he plays balls vertically in terms of anticipating the eyes and where the ball should be, that he could be at least decent in terms of playing the ball. So it's not something where I watch it and it's just like, because at first it's what it was to me, because you hear the stats, you put out the stats, everyone puts out the stats. Oh, he's just not good at playing the ball. So my question is, okay, well, why? Is it a thing where he's just not confident, or is there technical aspects that he can improve based on what I'm watching in the film? And it was very evident to me in the review that, okay, if he just fixes this one thing and how he plays vertical balls, he will improve. So considering the Jets coaching staff, obviously, Aaron Glenn being a corner, I'm hoping he teaches him those type of things. And why did the Ravens not do it? I'm not sure. year after year with watching NFL film, I think there's much less to work on the technical aspect of the game. It's more just schematics, and a guy kind of is what he is. Because I don't see a lot of guys like improving technique, but maybe the Jets really hone in on Brandon Stephens. I don't know, but yeah, I don't think you're crazy, in terms of, hey, this guy is could be at least a mid-level corner too. So he was your 18th or 17th player?
17th.
Okay, so who was your 16th?
Going up to 16th, and yeah, you had this guy as or at least you thought he was a surprise a few picks ago, but I have him higher. I'm going with Tony Adams here at number 16.
Okay.
3 straight DBs here, but just I feel like there's more of a floor to Adams than Stephens and Cisco, and maybe that's surprising to people. But like you said with Cisco, I mean, this is a guy who could miss a lot of tackles and give you some of those negative plays. And Brandon Stephens, we saw his floor last year. He gave up a ton of yardage because, if he doesn't figure out playing the ball, it doesn't really matter how tight his coverage is. So it's something he has to figure out. And until then, he is going to, be a liability in terms of the production. But Tony Adams, I feel like the last 2 years, despite getting benched, which may or may not have been Woody influenced, I feel like he's given you decent production. It's nothing that is game breaking. Yeah. Even the interception against the Eagles didn't really earn that. But he's a versatile player, like you said. You could play him in different roles in coverage. He's a guy you could trust man to man in certain situations against tight ends and things like that. I like his physicality near the line. Mm-hmm. So I think this is just a decent starting safety. And for me, the reliability of that is enough to put him up here.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, I don't know if it's just because fans' opinions swayed me or because, to be honest, I just turned my brain off throughout the season, so I wasn't paying attention a ton to Tony Adams, and I didn't review him. So I was going to ask you, is there any stats that kind of back up, the Jets fans? I'm not going to, is discrediting the right word? It feels like people are very low on Tony Adams, oh my God, you got to get rid of him. Malachi Moore has to start right now, but I didn't see it last year. There was the missed tackles and stuff, which has hampered him throughout his career. But overall, he's a young player, very versatile. I think they can work with this guy. And I think he could be, if you told me he was an average level starting strong safety this year, I don't think you're crazy. So why do you think people are so low on Tony Adams? Where it's hey, just please replace this guy, because I didn't see it on film. Maybe I'm missing something though, because again, transparent, I did not watch his entire season back. Is there anything that the stats speak to in terms of why people are low on him?
No, I mean, he does pretty good in a lot of metrics because, he's not a huge takeaway guy, obviously, but there isn't, in terms of the touchdowns he gave up and the yards and things like that, it's not a lot. Among safeties, he's middle of the pack in most of those things. Missed tackles are definitely there. So maybe, Jets had a lot of games this year where they couldn't tackle and they looked really soft, and Tony Adams contributed to some of those. So maybe people got low on him from one of those games, which again, fair critique in his game. But overall, I just feel like he's a solid middle of the pack starting safety.
Yeah. Makes me think of this comment now again. Tony Adams in your top 20.
Yeah.
Even though you didn't have the cojones to put Andrew Beck in the top 20. It's okay.
I didn't. Top 25 though. Quarter.
Yeah. So
still good.
So my next, it seems like we're kind of lumping a lot of the secondary into the same spot. I think they're all kind of average to below average guys, at least at safety. But this is where Cisco fell. Giving a little bit credit to the coaching staff, all that stuff. It's just the missed tackles were beyond brutal for him. I think he has good range for his size, but not necessarily elite. There's sometimes he gets caught looking back at the quarterback. There are definitely some flaws there, but overall, I do think he'll be about an average-ish safety, but you can ask the same question for him. We're just, Jets fans aren't as familiar with, I guess, the Jaguars, obviously, but he also got benched last year, right? It's not like Tony Adams is just, the only safety to get benched by their team. Cisco was as well. Again, obviously got a pretty good contract. He has the movement skills. He has the size. He has the want to. It's just he has to clean up tackling and his pursuit in the run game and not getting lost in traffic and better pursuit angles. There's a lot there with him. But he's my 16. And then I'll always go to my 15 because the guy you already mentioned, but Stephens is my 15. So we kind of have all these guys, again, lumped in together. I do think that if they're able to just teach him how to play the ball a little bit better, I think Stephens can be a legitimately very good too. He has more athleticism and upside than a DJ Reed. Now, is he going to be that good? I'm going to say no, probably not. But I do think he's by the end of 2026, he's an average level number 2. That's obviously giving some credit to the coaching staff if they do work with him. If not, then he'll be lower next year, but a little bit of projection. But Stevens is my 15th best player on the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to like lump players like here are all the DBs and just compare them against each other, because sometimes it is easier to like stack them up versus their peers than like corner versus O lineman. But I try not to do that. It just so happened to play out here, but it happened for both of us. I just think all 3 of these guys are in similar tiers. So going to number 15, I have another rookie here. I got Mason Taylor, number 15. I've not I would say high expectations for him in his rookie year, just because of the layout of this offensive depth chart. It feels like he's going to get a lot of targets, be a big part of that receiving game. And I think he's a very NFL ready receiver. We'll see about the blocking. That's what holds him back from being higher for me. But I think this is going to be one of their better skill players right off the bat. So I got him at 15.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I did have Taylor on here, and then I think I accidentally deleted him. So he is on my list somewhere. Where would I put him? Again, I forgot him. I guess, but I would probably put Taylor. I would probably put him at like 16. I would say right below Cisco, right below Stevens in my opinion, just for year 1, just because of the. I think he has to bulk up a little bit. I don't think he's weak, but tight end is one of the hardest positions to adjust to. So that was a mistake by me, but I would probably say he's right below Thomas and stuff like that. It's just a little bit of a slip up, just editing this list 1,000 times to try to get the correct order. I left out Mason Taylor, which is just awesome by me. But I'll go to my next guy. My 14th guy is going to be Membu. I think this is where you're starting to look at like average players. Again, I think Cisco's going to be an average safety. I think Stevens going to be like an average corner too. For Membu, I think for a rookie offensive lineman, if I'm going to tell you, hey, Membu's going to have an average right tackle season, I think you'd sign a dotted line for that, right? Like, obviously we want better. We want him to be elite and all that stuff. But considering he's in his 4th year, in his first year, I think you signed a dotted line for an average level guy at that spot. Am I wrong there?
No, because I also have Membu at number 14 here. Yeah, this is probably like your what do we call this? Like this is like your average line. I wanted to come up with a player to represent this. Or maybe it's a little bit lower. Maybe like under Tony Adams, or I don't know. Somewhere around here is that who's a really average player? Let's go with the Jets player. Who's the most average Jets player you could think of? The past.
You talk about in the past? In the past?
Yeah.
Oh my God, we've had so many bad players that averages like almost
average
like,
just seems good to us.
I was thinking like Jordan Jenkins, but I would say he was below average. He wasn't even.
Exactly.
He wasn't even average. Like Sheldon
James
Rankins.
Carpenter. I don't know.
James Carpenter. I guess that type of level. But I think this is I think these are all kind of average level guys. Steven Cisco, Membu. But yeah, it's hard like in terms of who is the best example of average for the Jets, because the average guys get elevated to great and then everybody else is just bad, so it is really hard to think about off the top. Like Chad Pennington average, I don't know.
He was maybe good at times. Yeah, that is a hard one, because our perspective of average is a lot different. I think most other fan bases would look down on Tyler Conklin, or is he above average?
Yeah, Tyler Conklin, and a guy I would argue that people are going to hate me for, but I think David Harris was more close to average than elite, being honest. Oh, David Harris, look at Blake C. Nice one. Jim Leonard. Jim Leonard was plus average. Jim Leonard was very good. But I think David Harris is actually not a bad example of somebody who's kind of average, but I think got elevated by fans quite a bit. LaDainian Tomlinson, Sean Green in that one year, I would say they were more average running backs than good running backs. So I would. That's a hard question, really.
Yeah, that's a tough one. But that line is around here somewhere. So I think Membu will be like an average. It's kind of similar to Olu. I think he was an average maybe below, somewhere around there, give or take, average starting left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great starting point, but he's obviously got to make that leap. But to start
Mm-hmm.
off for a rookie tackle, that's tough to do. So it's not a slight. So yeah, I got Membu 14 here.
The thing that's interesting with Membu still, and I was just on Play Like a Jet with Scott, and we were doing breakdown of the film breakdowns of all these guys, and I think I heard it from him, and I've heard it just on Twitter in general. Like the main consensus around Membu is that he's a really good. He's a mauling guy over a pass blocker, which is literally could not be farther from the truth in terms of the film. He's much better pass blocker than a run blocker at this point, but nonetheless, yeah, he's my 14th, my 13th, and I think this guy. I think he could rise, and I think you're gonna have him in a similar range that I do because I think you're realistic. This is where JJ falls for me. This year, I think he's gonna be an average DN this year. You're talking about. I think he'll still be plus as a run defender, but I do think at best he's gonna be. I don't want to say at best, but I expect him to be an average to below average pass rusher because one, it's kind of already what he's been, right? He's never been a plus average pass rusher. I would argue average at best at pass rushing this point in his career, and you're coming off of an Achilles injury. So I think he's going to be a below average pass rusher this year, plus average in run blocking, which kind of evens you out to being an average level player. And I think that's what JJ is going to be. Again, hope I'm wrong. I know, he's hears all the doubters and all that stuff, but hearing doubters doesn't fix your Achilles. I'm sorry. So I think he's at the average kind of line right here. JJ being my 13th.
Yeah, 13th here. I have continuing the offensive line. I got Joe Tippmann here. I think he's capable of being much higher, but starting out here, especially after seeing your review, maybe I'm a little bit lower on him in terms of where he's at versus his potential. Especially, I think the snap thing has to be accounted for in this because it was just very rough last year and it blew up a lot of plays. And I definitely would like to see him improve the consistency with that before I know that it's hard to account for that with centers around the league and everything, but he struggled with it. And but I think this is where I start to see like above average. So I still think he's an above average center and capable of being very, very good. But I'm going to compare to some other players because I do have one other offensive lineman here who I'm kind of banking on a leap from. So I'm going to leave it at that and keep Tippmann right around where he is. So I got him at 13 here.
At 13, yeah. So Tippmann's my 12. A little bit just inconsistent, like a little bit too volatile, both in the pass and even in the run game at times. I think he's been. And maybe correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I watched thousands of reps of guys, but I think he's a little bit farther along as a run blocker right now than a pass blocker. There's a little bit of mental lapses in the pass game with him.
It was funny the play where Olu shoves him back into place when he was trying to help against one guy.
Yeah, it's the mental lapses are there. He's already obviously vertically challenged in terms of being too tall at times. And there's times where he doesn't play with consistent knee bend or a base and he gets thrown in his face a little bit too much. So to me, Tippmann has been kind of average, right? Like in terms of relative to other starters. I don't think he's been plus average yet. I think at best he's been average, but I think he takes a little bit of a leap this year and is a slightly plus average starter at center. And with him, really, like I don't see it being a thing where people are saying like, oh, he's a better guard. I don't think they're wrong. I think he could be maybe even a better guard. Obviously right now he's a center because we already have guards, but maybe he is better there because you take off the having to think so much pre-snap and be kind of the anchor point of the offensive line. And, you have your hands ready, pre-snap where centers, you can't really have your hands ready and all that stuff. So that may be a true statement, but for now he's a center. And again, I think he's been average, but this year I think he'll be plus average. So I'm with you. He's your 13th, but he fell as my 12th. So who is your 12th?
Number 12 checking in here is Will McDonald. Definitely a guy who's potential to be higher, but I just don't know if I see the run defense being fixed. Like maybe it'll be a little less worse with the added weight and new coaching and all of that. But it to me, like it's just more than his frame. That's definitely part of it. I think he was the third lightest defensive end in the league. So it definitely contributes, but he also just doesn't really play with the best tenacity to me as a run defender or the best technique. I feel like he's always going to be a very pass rush centric player, and I think that puts a cap on his overall game. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see if he has another pass rush leap in him. Like if he's a 15 sack guy, 4 or 5 strip sacks, then you could overlook the run defense to a certain extent for that. But yeah, I think it's going to be a weakness, and it's definitely something that you can't overlook. So this is where I have him settling in compared to the rest of the players on this list, who I think are pretty complete.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. I'll obviously reveal him when I do, but I've my 11th. I think that was your 12th. My 11th is Fashanu.
Okay.
I would say in general, and again, I don't want to be negative. I do think his rookie season may be a little bit overrated by fans. I think he was decent. But I think that's really the cap of where I would put his game in 2024. I don't think he was above average. I don't think he was solid. And again, how do you quantify it? Numbers? I have to watch 1,000 different tackles, but I did want to see him change up his pass sets a little bit, because when you watch his highlights, he does the same pass set over and over and over and over again. And I would like to see that change. I've seen some people on Twitter say he changed it consistently, and that's just unequivocally not true. He always he shoots that he kind of comes more rounded with the left, more rounded with the right, and expects to kind of it's like a quasi a hug technique that he does, and you'll see it again a lot in this review. So this is one of the problems I thought he had at Penn State, was just doing the same pass set over and over again. So while he has good movement skills, he has good feet, he has all that stuff, I do want to see some versatility in how he punches guys, because again, if you watch this highlight back, it's the same thing over and over again. And I do think he could be bull rushed. I do think you can time it a little bit. So I think the run blocking was still left a little bit to be desired. I think that was below average. I think the pass blocking was about average. So in his rookie year, I think relative to other tackles, he was average again at best. I think this year he'll be slightly above average, but I do think in general he's being a little bit overrated for what he did. I don't know if that's just a stats thing, but based on the film, I didn't watch him, was like, holy crap, this guy is amazing. So trajectory is going up. I do think he'll be better than last year, but I still think that's probably a slightly above average to solid tackle, but not necessarily great yet.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do have him not quite in my 11th spot here, so we still got to wait a little bit. But in my 11th spot, still someone who's higher than you had him, but I got Jermaine Johnson here. And I don't completely disagree with your summary of him. That injury is probably going to affect him, even though it was an early season injury, so he'll have had time to get back to as close to peak form as he can. But it will have an effect, and I do think that, like you said, it is. He's a well-rounded player, but he also was never, even in that second season, a great consistent pass rusher. I think he's really good at finishing, like chase down type plays. He can get those chase down sacks and those chase down hits because he's a good motor. He has good length. He's fast, athletic. So that allows him to make plays. But in terms of consistently winning as a pass rusher, he definitely wasn't quite beyond average at best yet, and this will probably stunt that. But I still really love his run defense. I think that should translate well, even after the injury. And he's just overall a well-rounded player. He's made plays dropping into coverage and breaking up a screen to create that interception that Quinn Williams had. He's just very well-rounded. I think it should continue to hold up, but we'll see how he does after the injury. So I think I'm a little higher on him than you are, but I got him at the 11th spot here.
Yeah, you had him at 11. I have him at 13. I don't think there's a drastic difference. Again, with JJ, you just look at the sacks, and a lot of them have been effort or design. There hasn't really been a lot of sacks where he's beating a guy in 2.5 seconds, right?
He's a great effort sack guy. It's definitely consistent pressure, consistent winning. Can he get that up?
Yeah. And again, off the injury, it's a question, but I think he can creep into the top 10 next year. I do. You went with 11. I guess go with your 10 first.
Okay, breaking the top number 10. I have a good feeling that we might have the same guy here. I got John Simpson as my number 10. Okay. Think a well above average guard this year. We'll see if there's more in store for him. He's not a young guy, but he's also someone who's on a trajectory. He's improved a lot in back-to-back years and still has some areas he can get better. He'll have chemistry within this, within the players next to him, within the system. A new system that hopefully could. There were a lot of communication issues last year on this offensive line, so I feel like if they could sort that out, it could make everyone collectively look better. But yeah, I mean, we were both high on Simpson going into last year versus expectations. That turned out to be probably my best like take or prediction going into the season. I had a lot of wrong ones, specifically things that were positive, but this one was a rare hit. So we'll see if he could keep trending up, but if not, I mean, you're still getting him on a contract year this year, so that should counter, like, was that a 1-year wonder? Can he sustain it?
Yeah.
So 28 years old, in the middle of his prime. I think this is my number 10 player here, and a pretty solid bet to stay in this range.
Yeah, and I think we'd both argue if somebody brought that argument, like, hey, it's a 1-year wonder, but was it really? Because we watched him with the Ravens and we're like, oh, this is a pretty solid player, you know? So I would say this is his second year of being solid. And we didn't even watch him the year before that. At least I didn't. So how good was he that, 3 years ago? I'm not sure. So very close to me with Simpson. I'm not there yet. I do have him a tiny bit higher than you do. But my 10th player, and this is again a little bit more projection and just like what the hell went on last year, but Breece Hall is my 10th best player. Again, I think we're at the area now where we're talking about like plus average. Realistically, again, gun to my head, if I had to watch 32 of the running backs last year, I think Breece Hall was a below average running back, right? Again, how do you quantify? It's hard to, but you're talking about leading the NFL or tops, near the top at least. I'm not going to say leading the NFL in all these categories, but drops, fumbles, barely broke any tackles. I thought the vision was bad. I thought he just fell down into guys. So you hear a little bit that he had, we thought he had an injury, because it's not a thing where, hey, he's more explosive the year after the Achilles, and then 2 years after the Achilles, he loses the explosion. So it seemingly was a new injury. And I think he revealed that in like an on-site Jets interview or whatever, that he was battling some injuries last year. So I do think he'll hopefully round back into form. He'll get more explosive. He's playing on a team who's going to emphasize the run game more, a better offensive line. Our running quarterback is going to open up the box for him a little bit. So I do think he'll be plus average, but I don't think he could be much higher than that, just because of how, again, bad he was last year. Gun to my head. Again, I have a lot of guns in my head, as always. He was probably the 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd best running back last year at best. I don't think you could say he was average last year. I think that's fans kind of having their preconceived notions of him and wanting to be more positive, because he's a guy with a superstar potential. But he just wasn't good last year. So he's 10th, and that may even be a little bit too high for how he played last year.
Yeah, really, he was one of the most difficult players to place for me because of that different. Like last year, I think I had him number 1. I had very high expectations for him going into last year, and I agree with everything you just said. A below average starting running back last year. So it was hard to try to value what I saw in him going into last year alongside what we just saw. Like, how do you weigh those two things? That's what I struggled with. So with that being said, I don't have Hall at number 9 here. I have Olu Fashanu as my 9th player. I think I'm higher on. I think I feel similarly about how he played, but I think I'm expecting a bigger leap because I feel like it's pretty common for tackles. Every position is this way. You're struggling in your rookie year. But I think tackles pretty commonly, especially the early drafted ones, will have, look maybe even bad in the rookie year, average at best, and then a big leap the second year. So I think that it's well within range for him to take, go straight from average to not the best left tackle in the league, but very, very good. I think it's something we see pretty often. So I think that is going to be in store for him. So that puts him at number 9 here. Maybe with that being said, I should switch him with my 8th, but I'll stick with it here. I got Olu at number 9.
Yeah, no, it's a thing where like I think that the Cisco, Stevens, Membu, JJ line was kind of like the average level players for me. Where Tippmann was plus, Fashanu was plus, but yeah, no, I think Fashanu is going to be a plus starter this year. It's just I didn't see a lot in the run game, and then in the pass set I want to see a little bit more versatility, but I still do think he'll be good this year. Very good. You know, what's exactly the difference there? You know, but yeah, no, I think he'd be very good. I think he'd be very good. And obviously having a capable offensive line coach. Now, obviously, we don't know what Steve Hayden is, but can he be any worse than Keith Carter? Probably not. So you're expecting at least somewhat better coaching there. So he's 21 years old, right? Or he was 21. So he'll add size, he'll add mass, he'll add experience. He knows he has to work on. So yeah, he'll be better this year, no doubt. My 9 is an offensive lineman as well. It's Simpson. I think Simpson's a little bit better of a player. I think he's definitely going to be at least solid this year. So really not much more to highlight with Simpson that you already said, but a guy who's been pretty good for a few years now. Really good in the run game, really good on combo blocks, pass blocking, and a few lapses there with Simpson. A little bit too much ducking the head and hand shooting wide and things like that. But overall, I think you're talking about a very solid guard, you know, probably in the, you know, I don't know, 8 to 10 range, 8 to 12 range, something like that for left guards in the league. So he finishes at 9 for me. I'll go to my 8 right away because your 9 was Fashanu, right? I'm assuming your 8 is Hall. I don't know how much higher you could have. I guess we'll say my 8 is Sherwood. Okay. Want to see a little bit more in the pass game. I don't think there was a ton there in terms of like, oh, great pass rep or anything like that. Good in the run game. He still can get lost in traffic a little bit, whether it be like misdiagnosing a run or getting caught up a little bit in the line of scrimmage and not being too patient. But Sherwood's here, and he may even like, I don't know if it's too high for him based on what he did last year. I think he may be another guy who may be a little bit overrated by fans in general, but obviously a young guy, trajectory shootings, you know, upward, clearly. First full year of like starting last year. So I do think he'll be better. So I think 8's a solid spot for sure. But I think you're talking about a very good player at this point at linebacker.
Okay. And yeah, number 8 is where I have Breece Hall. And I say it hesitantly. Like I almost feel like I should switch him with Olu, maybe even below John Simpson, but it's just hard for me to overlook the fact that through 2 years, I thought this was going to be the best running back in the league last year. It really felt like he was on that track. It was 2023. And I know you were lower on that season, but just with the production that he had compared to how poor that situation was, it really felt like with the situations improving that he was going to be the guy next year or in 2024. But so I have to still put some stock into that. But at the same time, we have to consider that, look, he was bad is a strong word, but he was, you know, well below expectations last year with especially just the controllable stuff like fumbles, drops, all that. But I'm expecting something in between what I was projecting going into last year and what we got. And that should be a top 10 to 12 running back. So with that in mind, I think this is a reasonable spot for him. So that's what I think I'm looking at.
Yeah, no, for me, it's a thing where I don't know how strong the word bad is for him last year. Like I think he's definitely closer to bad than being good, you know? Yeah. So I think he kind of was bad last year. Let's be real, you know, at least me being real, I think he was bad last year. So I am factoring in, okay, he wasn't good last year, but the prior years, and that's why he's, you know, up here on he's at 10th on my list. But I couldn't just put him higher because of just really truly how bad it was. But again, I'll chalk up the injuries and a bad situation and whatever else, and Rodgers checking out of runs and whatever else it may be, because he just didn't look like the same guy. But give him credit, top 10, but not 9th, not 8th. Again, I had Sherwood at 8, and then a guy you already had, and this is, I guess, kind of because like pass rushing matters a lot, but Will McDonald's my 7th. Okay. I know you had him like 12 or whatever it may be, but just watching him back, it's just the versatility and moves he has, the bend, the explosion, the flexibility. He was better than I thought he was last year after watching back, because maybe it's just because like, hey, the beginning of the season mattered so much more. So like that was kind of my my memory of him was the Titans game where Will Levis trips over him or whatever it may have been. Or Will Levis, he's in a quarterback spy, and then Will Levis is scrambling and he tackles him for half a yard short and counts as a sack. Like, there wasn't a lot there, but at the beginning of the season, but towards the midpoint of the season, he was just winning pretty damn consistently. The ball was just out so quick. So McDonald, in my mind, is going to be a guy who has a 12, 13, 14 sack season this year. And again, I'm not predicting this, but in terms of his athleticism, he could be a guy who I think gets 18, 19, 20 sacks. Do I think he will ever? I'm not going to say that, but in terms of his upside, there's no reason he can't have 20 sacks. Like, he is that athletic if he were to reach his ceiling. So yeah, he's my 7th, and I think it's because, again, the run game, it's not there. You're hoping the 10, 15 pounds that he added holds up in the run game as well. Like you said, it's not just a strength thing, it's a technique thing. There's a lot of like bending from the waist and not having his hands in a strong spot. He puts his hands over the top a lot like this, which you really want it more tight and things like that. So there's more technical work there, dropping the base, etc. But pass rushing matters a lot in the NFL. So I kind of let that weigh heavy into my decision here, but I think you're looking at 13, 14, maybe even 15 sacks for McDonald. I do think he's that good. Now, the question with that is like, how often are teams going to have to pass the ball on the Jets, because of the Jets offense as well. And the Jets are going to be a ball control heavy type offense. So maybe he doesn't have the opportunity to get that many sacks because of how he's going to be played. But I do think that's the type of player he is. So he is my 7th.
Yeah. And it's interesting how his season played out, because he got all those sacks early on. I think he had 8 in 7 games or whatever it was. Obviously the 3 against the Titans, but like those early season sacks he had some fluky ones, like you mentioned, against the Titans, like really fluky ones that just had nothing to do with pass rushing. And then later in the season, his sacks dropped off, but that's kind of when he started to really play his best, is when the sacks weren't there. I know there was I think he drew 5 holds in a 3-game span, or 4 or 5 holds. He was getting held a lot at the end of the year. Like, he overall had a great season pass rushing, beyond just, obviously you hit that double-digit sacks. That's what people are looking for. But beyond that, the pressures, the hits, every level of it was the winning. Every level of it was there, and it was for the full season. It's just that, he lucked into some sacks early on, and then it kind of balanced out later. But I'm also very high in the pass rushing. Just, we'll see how that balances out with the run defense. And then, like, if he can't stop the run, does that limit his snap count? Because we know the Lions with Glenn, they liked playing bigger DNs who were like JFM types, like Levi Amuzarike. There it is. John Kaminsky. Like, they had some of these like 280, 290 type guys out there. So he valued the edge setting in that scheme. So if McDonald struggles with that, how much does that affect his playing time and his ability to get those sacks? I think that's also something to think about. But we'll see how it all goes for him. That was your 7, right? Yeah. So 7, I have Jamie and Sherwood here. So 1 spot higher than you. But I have a similar, like, he's a great playmaker, fast range. I know, like, you had questions about his speed, but I think he's still relatively fast for a linebacker. Definitely we'll see. Like, the contract, I think, was a bit much relative to where he actually is at this position. So we'll see. But I still think he's a very good player overall. And I'll just go to my 6. I have Quincy 1 spot above him. I think I'm still higher on Quincy because the playmaking ceiling is just higher to me, more athletic, more explosive. And he's still, like, in the later stages of his career, he's become a lot more disciplined and reliable alongside that. So I still got him at number 6 here.
Yeah. With Sherwood, I agree with you too. Like, I think the contract now, again, he's young and I guess they're projecting and all that stuff, but I would say for what he's done so far, it was a little bit of an overpay, but again, young guy, all that stuff. And that was one of the more interesting things. It's like NFL level, I think he showed solid speed, at least solid. But I watched him at Auburn. I didn't see the speed, but NFL level, I don't know what happened exactly, but it looks like he just got faster, which thinking less, allowed to play more free. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but I didn't think he was the best mover at Auburn. And I agree with you. At NFL level, I think he's a plus mover, really good tackle radius, things like that. But he was my 8. He was your 7, I believe. And you went to your 6
I went to 6.
So my 6 was, and it's AVT. I think he's the Jets' best offensive lineman. It's just I kind of factor in injuries a little bit because he might have been a spot or two higher, maybe. He was healthy all 2024. And I think he played Pro Bowl level right guard again. Did I watch everybody? No, but just watching him individually, when he's healthy, he's still very good. So ABT was my 6, and then breaking my top 5. And again, it's just a playmaking upside, all that stuff. You already mentioned him. It's Quincy. Quincy just cracks the top 5. I would say if ABT has been healthier for longer, he would be past Quincy. It's just I had to factor in the injuries at least a little bit with ABT, but a little bit fluky injuries, all that stuff. So I'll assume he'll be healthy again, knock on wood. But he's my 6, and then Quincy starts the top 5 at number 5.
Yeah, for me, going to number 5, I have Michael Carter II, a guy who I think is, doesn't draw a lot of headlines, not super flashy with the playmaking or anything like that, but it's because he's so solid at handling his role. He's probably out of the entire team, the least negatively impactful player that they have, in my opinion. So that lands him in the top 5 for me. I'll go to number 4. I have AVT at 4th.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. I think this is considering health, maybe he should be lower, but I didn't think too much about it in these rankings. I was thinking more about just player capability. So that puts him at 4th for me. And just the versatility is a cherry on top of that. Like if things collapse and go terribly, just the fact that he could play basically 4 different positions for you is a huge benefit that he brings.
Yeah, I after watching these guys, assuming he's healthy, like Simpson versus ABT, I think ABT gets my first contract. It just the versatility and almost like I said in the initial review watching him at USC, there's nothing like splashy about him necessarily, but he's just so good, just so consistent, so technically sound in most aspects. There's a flaw here or there, like everybody has, but overall, ABT is a Pro Bowl level player in my opinion. So he's my 6 just because of the injuries. 5 was Quincy. Your 5 was my 4, and that's Michael Carter II. Just somebody who I think is consistently a top 5 slot in the league, willing in the box, really good in man, good in zone, smart player. I think Michael Carter II is consistently an overlooked player, but I think pretty much all slot corners are, right? Like, how many Jets fans out there, like casual Jets fans, know like Kenny Moore is one of the top 3 slot corners of the last few years. I'm not sure about last year, but at least past years, he's been very good. So a little bit overlooked, Michael Carter II, but he is my 4th. Did you give AVT was your 4th, and we're gonna
AVT 4th.
Every Jets fan is gonna have a similar top 3. I do want to highlight that we appreciate the. Oh, is my soundboard not working? Did you hear that?
I can't hear it. No.
Okay, yeah. So my camera's not working, my soundboard's not working, everything's not working. So I played the clip there. But thank you, Marvin, for the $20 super chat. We appreciate it. I didn't follow it. Okay. He actually did. He said, "Sorry, I'm late, but can you sum up the general differences with Saleh and Wilks' defensive schemes?" Nania, I don't know if you can comment on this. I have not studied Wilks really at all. Because it's been Aaron Glenn's defense, and even Glenn. It's just there's going to be such a mixture of what they do between Aaron Glenn and Wilks. I almost want to see it before studying it, just because not a waste of my time. I don't want to say it's a waste of my time to study the schemes, but it's just a thing where it's really left up to what they decide to do and how they decide to mold the defense. So I felt like it was more important to get into the player reviews than schematic reviews. Nani, do you have anything on Wilks versus Saleh and their schemes? Because I'm not super familiar with I mean, I know he's more of a 4-3 guy, right?
Yeah, definitely. So that's a similarity with Saleh, but main thing is Wilks is definitely a big time blitzer in a different way than Glenn. Glenn's been more of a man blitzer with the Lions. Wilks is zone heavy, but also blitz heavy. So he's very much leans into those zone blitzes. That's really the main thing to know. So I do definitely expect heavy blitzing from the Jets this year because they both bring that to the table. But Wilks is more the zone coverage coach. Glenn has leaned more into man. So I'm curious to see how that split works out.
Yeah, that's something that I should have said that honestly. The blitzing is something that's going to be very evident, I think, with the Jets. Jets of past years might have run more like cover 6 and quarters coverage than I think this team's going to run. I based on their schemes and what I've seen a little bit, I expect more press cover 1, a little bit less off coverage. I expect a little bit more press cover 3 as well. So we have another one from K Delgado. You can't hear the money thing because I had to fix my soundboard or whatever happened to my computer. Delgado, $5 per chat. We appreciate it. Zari Barnes hot takes super really chat. I'm not sure. I saw somebody said top Barnes, top 25 or top 10 or whatever it was. Or it's, I think it's Zaire. He said ignore that really. But yeah, I guess like backup linebackers, you have Mayoga, you have Zaire Barnes, and then you have what's his face? Ball, Moncari Ball or whatever his name was from last year.
I actually went way past the top 25 and I had Barnes at 48th. So
wow. So you're doing an article. You're gonna do an article like you did last time.
I was getting ready for my usual like rank the entire team.
Okay.
I figured I'd use this to get started on that.
Do you think he makes the roster at this point, or is he not at this point?
Definitely a bubble guy. I mean, we haven't seen much of anything from him. I know he played a little bit last year on special teams. Actually, he didn't play last year. 2023, he played a few games. So I don't know. It's just not much there to really bank on.
So can I reveal both of our number 3s? Because I think we're gonna have the same number 3 here.
Yeah.
That being Garrett Wilson. Is Garrett Wilson your 3? Okay, so give me your reason for Garrett at 3 over being 2 or 1.
Yeah, honestly, I thought more about whether he would be lower. Just AVT kind of gave me a little bit of a thought. Like AVT at guard versus Garrett among wide receivers was kind of where my head went. But I don't think Garrett has touched Sauce or Quinnen. I mean, both of these guys have either been the best player at their position or been in that conversation, and Garrett has not entered that yet. I think I don't think he's capable of it. He's capable of top 5 to 10. I don't think best at his position.
Yeah, it's just a thing with Garrett, and you watch it throughout the review. Like, there's plenty of times where you're going to see him missed by Rodgers on situation like literally this play right here, where he's wide open and he gets missed by Rodgers. So I think there was a little bit left on the bone there. But he has to be more consistent with attacking the ball, right? Like, he consistently lets the ball come to him, catches it with his chest. I want to see him win vertically more. I want to see him better in contested catch situations. And don't give me the Texans example, because there's hundreds of examples. One play doesn't make a career or a season or a player. So I want to see him win at the line more. I want to see him win vertically more. I want to see him attack the ball more. Less drops. He had that big drop in the Steelers game that led to a pick and then to a touchdown. You had some fumbles, so he was just a little bit volatile for me, where again, I think his ceiling is top 5. I do think he could be one of the better receivers in the NFL. Has he been that so far? No, there's been some inconsistencies there. He stopped sliding before, there's a play versus the Patriots was like a deep over route, and he catches the ball and he slides in to catch it, and he could have just walked in for a touchdown. And said he slides at the 5 for no reason. So I don't know if it was like him hearing, footsteps, whatever it may be, but he definitely improved. So could he be, number 1 next year? Maybe, but I think Jets fans kind of fail to see some of the flaws he possesses as well. Even though while acknowledging he's very good, I think he'd be an elite receiver. I just don't think he's that yet. Now this is really probably the main discussion, or the biggest thing, is who do you have at 1? I changed quite a few times here. I really did. I don't know. I don't think there's a clear-cut one. You could say this guy is easily the best player for the Jets. Based on how you're holding your chin, I think you have Sauce at 1, but I don't know. So who is? Give me your 2 first.
All right. Well, at number 2, we have a former first-round pick of the New York Jets, a one-time All-Pro, Quinnen Williams. I have at number 2. And Sauce takes the crown. I think to me, it's just more of a, like, how do they compare versus their position? I think defensive tackle is stacked with superstars, and you still have Chris Jones, Dexter Lawrence, Jeffrey Simmons, a lot of great competition out there. And Sauce, obviously Surtain, amazing season. Stingley broke out last year, but just total body of work last 3 years. I still think Sauce is at the top of that position. Versus with Quinnen, like he's kind of in the top tier, but Sauce, I think, has an argument to be the guy at his position. So that's what puts him over the top for me. But I don't have any arguments with anyone who puts Quinnen first either.
Yeah, I had Sauce at first at number 1, but then I put Q, and I don't know if it's a thing where like maybe this is Q's like last year being number 1, because I think Sauce maybe takes over next year, and Q is 27, 28. So like maybe I'm giving him his his I don't know, like his curtain call. I don't know how to phrase that, but maybe this is last year at the top. But I think they're kind of in a similar range. Like I think Q is a top 3 to 5 defensive tackle in the league. I think Sauce is a top 3 to 5 cornerback in the league. I could see Q being the best at his position this year, because I think he's a little bit more well-rounded in the run game than a Chris Jones is. But yeah, like Sauce, I think could legitimately be one where I think Q is most likely, like gun to my head, probably going to be at least below Dexter Lawrence and Chris Jones. So maybe I should put Sauce here. That's what I had initially, but I think they're both in the same range. They're both top 3 to 5 players for their position. It's just Q. When Q is dominant, I think he's more impactful than Sauce being dominant. So that's kind of where I see it. It's like, okay, he can get you 10, 12 sacks a year. He's very good in the run game. Where Sauce, like, how much can you impact the game based on today's rules? So it's almost more like I'm going to give Trenches the nod over the corner. But really, like, hey, who's going to be the best at that position this year, Sauce or Q? I would probably say Sauce. So I agree with you. It's almost like the positional value thing, Trenches type thing. I put Q above me, but I do think this is probably his last year at 1, and then it will be Sauce moving forward. So interesting discussion there for sure. It is creeping up to it's actually past 12, and I got a little guy I got to put asleep, so we'll do a little bit of a lightning round ish. We could, not so much time on these guys, but let's do our honorable mentions here in the top 25. So who was your, I guess just give me 26 through 30 here. Who were your 5 guys who just missed the top 25 for you?
Yeah, so 26 we have Byron Cowart, then Isaiah Oliver, Josh Myers, Irvin Charles, Chukwuma Okorafor would be my 5 honorable mentions.
Okay, so I had Byron Cowart, same exact as you did at 26. I had Malachi Moore as my 27. I think he could be a lower end starter at strong safety. Derek Nottie was my 28th best player. Braylon Allen was my 29th. I just don't think you'd be very happy with him as a starter. And then Okorafor was my 30th, actually. So relatively similar. I think I had Moore and Nottie. You added Irvin Charles, and who was your other guy who was?
I had Myers, who was in your top 25, and I Oliver
23rd. Yeah. Okay. So Oliver and Oliver and Charles were guys who aren't on my list at all. I think other than that, we were pretty similar in the list. The one thing I do want to comment, we have 2 kind of questions here. Did you see that Quinnen seems to be slimming down? Curious, since Glenn's defense in Detroit had 2 over 315 pound starters. It's just like, that's why in terms of studying the scheme and stuff, like it could be valuable, but you don't really know. So it almost felt like I was just kind of wasting some time, but I don't know. Is he slimming down? I don't really follow like the Jets.
I'm not sure. I don't watch workout videos.
Yeah, I don't know. If he is, then I think he said he's back to his college weight, I heard, but I don't know if he was lighter or heavier in college. Maybe he's bulking up a little bit. I'm not sure exactly. K Delgado had to answer this because I haven't seen him slimming down. And he already plays at probably 305, 310. So it's kind of
about 305, I think.
He's 305, but he holds up in the run game like he's 315, so it doesn't really necessarily matter. But the one other question I wanted to get to, which RJ asked a while ago, he said this can be a question for you after you're done with the top 25. Joe, what's your opinion on the O-line now that you've done all the reviews? It hasn't really changed a lot. Now may I have been a little bit higher on Simpson or ABT than I thought, or a little bit lower on Tippmann or Fashanu than before I started. Yeah, sure, but same place as I was. I think they have average to above average starters at every position. I don't think there's a weak link. I think at worst you're talking about maybe Simpson or Pittman or Fashanu being average. But if that's your weakest link on an offensive line, you're a very good offensive line. So they're young. Hopefully they're all improving with better coaching, all improving with more years under their belt. So after watching all of them, I'm kind of in the same spot. I think they're going to be I just saw the ticker. I think they'll be a top 10 offensive line. Something about a first 10 people to type all gas. Yeah. Okay. Nonetheless, yeah, I didn't really change a lot. Again, individually, I think my views may have changed a little bit on guys, but overall, fine. Tony the GM says another word. Jets need 10 starters for 2026. No, I would say less than that, right? Out of 22 guys, I think you could pass with every offensive lineman they have. You'll probably need a new quarterback. You'll have the same tight end. You're probably need tight end 2, receiver 2. Like, no, I wouldn't say 10. I think that's probably a little bit overestimating. But nonetheless, little toddlers make hard deadlines, so I do got to jump off. But Nania, is there anything you want to promote in the next few weeks? We have training camp starting in 3 days. I'll be back next week, maybe with Nani, maybe without Nani, but I will be back next week. And for me, again, the only thing I will say is keep checking out the reviews. I put out 31. The reviews format will change a little bit next year. Now you're just in the shorter reviews, you're getting just clippets of the longer review. Next year, the reviews will be completely new to themselves. You'll have 2 to 3 strengths and weaknesses of those guys wrapped up a little bit more concise, a little bit more to the point, so it's easier to digest. So watch out for that. Yeah, past that, I appreciate everybody. And Nania, what do you got to promote in the next few days or recent work?
Jets X Factor, man. That's it. Website, YouTube, podcast. You know where to find us. That's it. Always
Nania's top.
Whoever said it earlier, like this is the only place you'll find the Andrew Beck and Tony Adams top 20 love. That's what we hang our hats on here.
That and you're gonna have Nania's top. What are you doing? 53? Or are you doing 90? Your top 90 players on the Jets roster?
Usually I do every single player on the roster, but I was looking earlier at some of these like UDFAs and stuff, and it's like I don't really know anything about them. So we'll see if we'll see what extent we go to.
All right, so watch out for that. Again, watch out for my reviews. I will be back next week with you guys talking some Jets training camp.